Hi again guys, and welcome to another special projects build, and this time this build is kind of somewhere between a replica and a custom, because the vehicle that we are building is a replica in effect, but it's not a vehicle which is actually really even remotely similar to the car that we're building it from, because we are replicating, as of course you'll have seen from the title, an IndyCar, in particular a 2015 spec IndyCar. But of course the vehicle that we're building it on is not an IndyCar, it's a Formula car. So as similar as they are, they do have significant differences. So as I said, it's kind of a replica, but at the same time kind of a custom. Now I would of course recommend getting the Polyphony FGT to build this on. You could probably do it with the Lotus 97T in a different way, but this car of the two is closer to looking like an Indy car, so this is of course 100% a mechanical build, not a visual one. So we'll go first of all to of course the mechanical setup, and then take it out to the Indy oval, obviously, to find out what kind of times and also speeds that this build can run. Now incidentally, these specs that we're working to, in particular the power and the weight, are actually the same IndyCar specs that you can find on Forza games, such as Forza 6, with the IndyCars that are on there. We're actually running the same horsepower and weight as those vehicles. Now it's kind of a shame that we can't round off the PP to say 800 or 795, but there's really no way that you can do that. So I would of course recommend an oil change, as always. And if you do use this as an IndyCar, you will need to change the oil quite regularly, because it burns through it and loses power pretty often. I actually lost some power, about 11 horsepower, just testing this tune. I had of course already been driving it for a bit, but it gives you some idea of how quickly and how frequently you'll have to change through that oil because of how quickly it burns through it. Well, it doesn't burn through it, but you know how quickly it wears, becomes grimy, etc. Now, we're running on racing hard tyres. Of course, racing softs will be even quicker, but under most scenarios, I think people will probably go for hards. As far as the suspension, I've gone for the lowest possible ride height. Then for the springs, I've increased them to 18, front and rear. The dampers and anti-roll I've reduced down to 3, with neutral camber and neutral toe. You can kind of do the gearbox first, but then again I'd recommend changing the power first and then coming back to this. I would recommend an auto setting of 217, as you can see, then individual gears of 6.8, 4.6, 3.4, 2.6, 1.1, 1750 and 1.5. Now of course you could change that, that's just what I would personally recommend. I've gone for a final drive of 3.8, and incidentally, with full downforce on racing hards, this can get up around 212 miles per hour on the Indy oval. With low downforce, that same gearbox setup will get you about 225 miles per hour. Now, at that speed, you're still not on the red line. You do have a little bit of leeway, say 200 or 300 RPM, for draft potential. So, as I said, adjust it as you see fit. For the diff, and this is the one thing which you will definitely need to change around based on driver preference, I personally like the car to be fairly loose, but at the same time to have fairly solid steering. I don't want the car to be weaving around all the time or feel like it has a light rear end. So I've gone for halfway on initial torque, then as low as possible on acceleration and braking. And to be clear, this is purely an oval tune. I would not necessarily recommend this for any kind of track apart from an oval. Now as far as the power, as I said, do an oil change, then reduce the power down to 641 horsepower, and as far as the weight, you want to add 162 kilos of ballast. You could put the ballast wherever you want. I personally like a 49-51 split. At the moment I'm running the lowest downforce, and when we take it out to the track we'll discuss the potential advantages and disadvantages of doing that. So let's go and do that. Let's take it out to the track to see what it's capable of. Now, as I was saying, there are some advantages and disadvantages of having high or low downforce. In racing series, if everyone is using this car and using the same tune, then I would probably recommend going for whatever you want, because obviously, depending on what you choose, it will give certain people an advantage. Now, having low downforce obviously gives you an advantage for pure top speed. With low downforce, you can run lap times in the high 41s pretty easily. Running high downforce, even the full downforce, you're looking at more like 44-second laps, maybe the high 43s. So there is a significant difference. I've already mentioned the speed difference, but the downside to having the downforce lower and having more speed is that you will burn through your front tyres, in particular your front outside tyre, much quicker because you're maintaining a higher speed. Of course, the G-forces involved are pulling the car out of the corner, or to the outside of the corner much more, and you have to compensate for stuff like that. Overall though, it's a tune which is highly capable, it's very fun to drive, and it would be perfect for one-make Indy racing. So, I hope you find this tune fun, of course, and definitely competitive and fun if you do decide to do it as like a one-make thing. And to be honest, I may actually, if the community of this channel would be interested in it, consider doing something like a HSG Indy race or event of some kind on this track. But that's for another time, and for now, obviously I hope you find this tune beneficial. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.